She never asked for trouble. She had joined the army for discipline, for the honor of carrying a flag her father had died protecting, for the quiet pride of wearing the same uniform her grandfather had worn in Vietnam. But sometimes the weight of history sat heavier on her shoulders than the patches on her sleeves. She was 26, lean and wiry, not the type who made people step aside when she walked past. In the chow hall or in the barracks, most people barely noticed her. But when she looked in the mirror, she told herself every morning, "I belong here." Life on base wasn't glamorous. It was routine. Wake before dawn, PT in the cold air until your lungs burned, drills until your legs ached, orders barked across the field. She had trained herself to be invisible in a world where standing out often meant being targeted. And yet, there was a fire in her that couldn't be hidden forever. The fire had begun long before the uniform. Her childhood had been a long lesson in toughness. A mother who worked 3 jobs after her father's death, brothers who went off to college while she stayed behind to take care of the little ones, and the gnawing ache of being underestimated in every room she entered. Too small, too quiet, not built for this. She heard it all. Every word carved itself into her memory, until she swore one day she would carve her own story instead. Then came the day of the training assembly. 282 soldiers lined up on the field, boots striking the ground in rhythm, rifles glinting in the morning sun. At the front stood Colonel R., a man whose presence carried weight but also a shadow. Known for his temper, feared for his strictness, he walked with the arrogance of someone who had never been challenged. Soldiers saluted, voices echoed, the flag rippled overhead. She was posted in the second row, eyes sharp, posture straight, every muscle tense with discipline. The colonel's gaze moved like a spotlight, cold and searching. Then it stopped. On her. Nobody knew why. Maybe it was the fire in her stance. Maybe it was because she didn't flinch. Maybe because she represented the one thing he couldn't control, quiet defiance. He stepped forward, boots pounding the dirt, stopping inches away from her. His voice cut the air like a knife. "You think you're tougher than the rest. You think your little discipline impresses me." His words stung, but she stayed silent. 282 soldiers watched, their eyes darting between them, breaths caught in the tension. Then it happened. A flash of anger in his eyes. The colonel's hand rose, not in a gesture of correction, not in authority, but in violence. He tried to strike her, to humiliate her in front of every soldier present. The world seemed to slow. The gasp of the crowd, the flinch of the first row, the disbelief that an officer of his rank would cross that line. But she did not flinch. She did not step back. Instinct, training, and years of bottled fire exploded in that single heartbeat. Her hand shot up, catching his wrist before the blow could land. For a split second, silence held the entire field captive. His face twisted in rage, trying to wrench free. And then, snap. The sound echoed sharper than a rifle crack. The colonel's arm bent where it shouldn't have. His body lurched forward in shock, his eyes wide not from pain alone but from the disbelief that this quiet soldier at the edge of the formation had just broken him in front of 282 witnesses. Gasps turned into stunned silence. Soldiers stood frozen, rifles in hand, mouths open. She held his broken arm just long enough for everyone to see, then let go, letting him collapse to his knees. Her voice, calm and steady, cut through the field. "Respect is earned, sir. Not forced." For a moment no one moved. The colonel clutched his arm, groaning, his pride shattered more than his bone. And in the silence, something shifted. Those 282 soldiers didn't see a quiet nobody anymore. They saw someone who had drawn a line in the sand, who refused to be broken, who stood taller than rank and intimidation. The aftermath came fast. Medics rushed in. Whispers spread across the base. Investigations launched. Some called her reckless, others called her insubordinate. But those who had stood on that field knew the truth. They had witnessed courage in its rawest form. Courage not in medals, not in speeches, but in refusing to bow when pushed past the line of dignity. That night, alone in her bunk, she replayed it all. The fear, the sound of bone breaking, the silence that followed. She wondered if her career was over, if the price of standing tall was exile. But then she thought of her father, of her mother's weary smile, of the generations before her who had swallowed pain without speaking. And she whispered to herself, "If they come for me, let them." I stood where I had to stand. What she didn't know was that the story would ripple far beyond the base. Soldiers whispered it in other units. Veterans shared it with pride. The day a colonel tried to break her, and she broke his arm instead. It became more than an incident. It became a legend, because sometimes history doesn't remember the names of those who commanded with fear. But it never forgets the moment one soldier proved that respect cannot be beaten into silence. And in the eyes of 282 soldiers who stood on that field, she was no longer the girl people overlooked. She was the reminder that strength comes not from rank, but from the unbreakable will to stand tall, even if the cost is everything.